So we hear about this all the time, but it's all about the details. When it comes to design, that is huge. That's why we often rely on designers to help us out. But let's talk about some of the details that can make a big difference in your space. LA, you've brought a few things that you like to use.
I brought two of my favorites, and I really believe that you don't have to go custom with everything. If you can very consciously put custom of a couple of things, it makes the entire space look so much more rich and really well thought out. And one of my favorite things to do is just taking simple linen drapes. It is super inexpensive. I actually picked these panels up, 2 panels for $15, and just adding a little bit of trim detail down the side. So some fun little pom-poms. So customized look. I don't sew. Sorry, Denise, but Denise Wild. I do the iron-on stuff.
I hear you, girl.
Or glue when need be. But simply adding like right over that stitch line there can add just a beautiful customized look that ties the entire look of the whole space together.
Really
it really
nice.
does.
See, so simple.
So simple. And
but it looks like it was made just for you.
Even more simple.
Yeah.
Rib-A-Frame. Everybody probably has at least 12 of these in their home, at least 12. One of my favorite simple things to do, go to Lee Valley Tools and just pick up these beautiful little brass caps for the corners with a little bit of construction adhesive. It literally elevates any artwork and makes it look customized. It's like so inexpensive.
It looks like you went out and got your frames done, right?
I did. Meanwhile, I spent like not a lot of money next to nothing.
Yeah, I kind of want to shop with you. You're like my mom. I say, Mom, I got it for $12.99. She's like, I could have got it for $5.
See, that was my mom.
$5.
That was my mom.
Right? She taught you well.
Beeline for the sale rack. And so I learned from the best.
She's like a sale ninja. I love it.
Was.
I'll tell you, my mom would have both of your moms beat because she'd get it for $5 and she'd have a coupon.
All right, Scott, we've got some detail in some of your spaces, and this is all about adding a little bit of design detail with the moldings.
Yeah, you know, people always are trying to struggle to find their design style, their taste. Again, my contemporary, modern, traditional, and I find that one of the leading indicators as to what your aesthetic should be is how you like your trim and your moldings in your home. So, for instance, you know, like a flat stock, a lot of people will do a flat stock trim. They'll do this around the doors, for their casings, around the windows, as baseboards, and it's a very modern, clean look. Adding a small detail gives you a contemporary look. And then something with a lot of detail or a complex detail would be more obviously classic. So that's not where you have to stop either. You can do applied moldings, doesn't have to just be a baseboard or window casing. We use them on the walls. We use them up the staircase. Just
We've got pictures actually. So look at it on a wall, and I mean, this is it's such a beautiful, dramatic thing to do, but it's not like you're using the fanciest materials here. What have you used?
This literally is, well, this was in a basement, so I actually used poplar.
Oh,
I've
that's
got a piece
nice
of pine
basement.
here, but you got to use wood. Usually if you're below grade or you've got a high humidity. Otherwise, you can use MDF, which is a little easier to work with, but it does expand and contract a little bit if there's moisture. But both of them can be painted out. They look identical. That wall literally took about an hour to measure it out and just cut the pieces. Always when you're doing applied moldings, you glue it and nail it. Just so you don't want it to lift off the wall at all. But you know, people do this for wainscoting. They do it around framing, around windows and mirrors, just to add a little extra detail to the home.
Really nice. Okay.
One thing to be careful of, though, is if you're in an older home, or even a new build for that matter, sometimes your floors and your ceiling aren't level. So you might be out by an inch by the time you do a span of a wall. So maybe check that first, because if you do this beautiful applied molding and you're not square, it's really going to emphasize the fact that the ceiling isn't level. So you can still do it, but sometimes you have to fudge it a little bit.
Cheat it,
What have you got for you know, a detailed thing we might want to add, Karen?
Well, I love when you're looking at an overall space and you repeat an element. And I find that when you walk into a space, sometimes you can't identify it, but you know, because it just feels really good. So I'm going to show you some pictures of a client's Candy Factory loft that we did. And I don't know if you can see the motif that we repeated. So we're going to take a look at a picture. And hopefully it's pretty obvious. So we're going to look at the first one and maybe look at the letting, hint, hint. And then we're going to look at the next one. and it's you can see the backsplash there. You see the backsplash?
You can see it when you really look closer. We're a little bit far from the monitor, but it's the circle.
It's the circles.
It's the circles.
And one of the reasons we did that, it was these lofts are very square and very boxy, and we wanted to add some organic shapes to it to really soften it. So that looks really nice. And of course, design is in the details. So these outdoor lights,
remote control lighting, people. Yes, and your children or anyone else will never burn themselves because they're all battery operated.
And they're actually outdoors. So they've got a little drainage hole in here, so the water won't collect.
Oh, cool.
So that's phenomenal for outside.
Very nice. All right, break time. More coming up on Home Day.